Hi guys, Jason West here, and in this video I'm going to run through analytics with Webinarjam and how you can use them, look at it and work out what's going on within your webinars. So I'm just going to select a webinar here. Let me just take a little look. Let's go to this one. I'll select a session. You can check through each individual webinar session. If you're running the same webinar again and again with different dates, you're able to go and have a look at how successful that particular webinar was. So I'm going to pick this one here from June and then press go, and then it should now launch. A little slow today. Normally it's a lot faster than that. Bam, there we go. Okay, so first of all, you're going to get to see your traffic situation. So this particular registration page, 607 visitors. And then the number of registrants, so it's a 41% sign-up rate from the place that they were sent to. And then the live attendees, show-up rate was 22.9%. That's actually pretty low. Normally I get, personally, about 35%. I think it was probably during the World Cup, so things were a little busy, you know, weather's awesome. So for me, that was very low rate. Normally it's about 35. And then you've got the number of people who attended your replay and the show up rate of the number of people who were sent that email that said, here's the replay, and then they showed up and signed in for the replay. So 32%. So in total, you can see you've got the 80 plus 50, which is what, 135 or something like that. 135 people out of those people who registered actually got to watch the webinar. Now, I didn't have a survey by the looks of it on this particular webinar, but if you did, you're able to view the survey results. And the survey is when you're actually setting up the webinar from scratch, you get a chance when they've registered to then ask them a series of questions or just one big question. And then all they have to do is just type in their answer, and then it comes through to here. You'll press that button and then it will be sent to you via email in a CSV. So you can open it up and see all of the answers from your people. So that's a useful feature, and that's where you'll find it. And then we've got inside your webinar. So the first thing, you can see the length of the webinar, which was 1 hour and 37 minutes. The average time people spent in the live room was 1 hour and 8 minutes. And then the average time in the replay room is only 23 minutes, which is, pretty bad. And that is because, they can probably feel like they can leave whenever they feel like it. It doesn't really matter. But when it's live, and also the fact that they maybe come back to it, whereas live, they'll tend to stay in there more, because also you're able to call out their name and interact with them more on a live webinar, of course, than a replay. And then we've got engagement. So we can see the peak number of attendees was 47 at 50 minutes during the webinar there. So that was the time when most people were on that webinar, was just about there. Probably just before I was about to pitch the training that we were offering, the paid training. 72% of those people attended the full webinar. And then the webinar replay, there's a peak of 81 attendees at midnight, which I find, or 00. So what that really means is that 80 people came then, and then it drifted off pretty bad, and only 14% watched the whole webinar through. And then the dropout rate, this is to help you to understand when people are jumping off your webinar, when maybe you need to improve things a little bit, find a way of keeping them on. It's naturally going to happen when you go into a sales pitch for anything though. Most people are there for the free content, and then they're going to do a runner. So you need to try and work out a way to try and keep them on there. And then same thing over here, when most people left your webinar, this tells you there. And then the number of people who have clicked the offer. So you're able to produce a little button inside the webinar. Usually it would be near the end, and it says click here to buy the course, buy the product, buy the service, whatever it is you're selling. And at that point, it registers here as a click. And it's 20 people, 20 clicks have gone through on the live webinar, and only 3 in the replay. So these are people who've gone all the way to the end when that button appears, which is how it is in our particular webinar. For yours, it might be within the first 10 minutes. And then it just shows you that. Now, I've run some polls within my webinars, which I really like because it gets interactivity with the people on your webinar, and they love it. So you can see the number of votes and everything. Do you own any investment property at the moment? People doing yes or no. And then the same question again there. This is probably like live and replay, I would imagine, the amount of people who pressed it in the live and replay. Obviously most people will be in the live. And over to the right here, you're going to get a rating at the very end of the webinar. It finishes and then the stars appear like that, and it says how would you rate this webinar, and people are able to just click the star and then it comes straight through to here. So I was rated at 4.5 star, 17 people rated it in total, and that was my score, which is pretty good, to be honest with you, especially for when you're selling a product or a service or a course in my case. You can also download all of the chat history that was going on during that live webinar, which is very useful to just see what people are saying at certain points. And then you've got the next section, which is monetization. Now this will mean nothing to you unless you are tracking sales directly from the webinar. And the way in which you do that is by adding a little bit of code that the webinar gives you during the setup process. I've got another video on that if you want to see that. And then you will put that code in the thank you page of your checkout, and then it will pass data back to here and tell you, what's been going on in terms of sales for that webinar. I don't tend to do it because I've got a complicated setup for my thank you pages, but it is quite useful to see how much your webinars are generating financially. I can do it a different way because I tend to only sell my courses through webinars. So I don't really need this, but if if you're selling in lots of different ways, this is a really handy way to see if the webinars are generating cash for you. And then notifications, this is telling you the statistics of all the emails that go out to people to remind them about the webinars and everything. How many were sent, the open rates, click-through rates, and all of that stuff. So that's really useful to know. Whoops. And then just down here, you've got all your registrants and attendees. Now, I'm not going to scroll down so I don't have to block out everybody's email and stuff, but you've got a lot of different filters here as well. You can see all registrants, those people who attended the replay, didn't attend, and so on. Left before a specific timestamp is good. So say if you know for a fact at 55 minutes and 10 seconds you went into your offer, and everybody did a bunk, or a certain group of people did a bunk before that, you could, if you wanted to, see them all there, export them, put them straight into an email list, and just send them a mass email saying, hey guys, I saw you jump the email before you saw the offer, here it is, and remind them again and close more deals that way. And then you've got people there who purchased a product or who did not purchase a product. That's only going to work if you're using the code that registers sales within this webinar software. So that is basically it. That is this whole section here of analytics within Webinarjam. The same thing will apply pretty much to every webinar in their analytics as well. But that just gives you an overview of how it all works. I hope you found that useful. If you did, then subscribe to me by all means on YouTube if you're watching this there. And also, guys, if you want to try Webinarjam out, highly recommend it. There's a link underneath that will get you a free trial for about 60 days. So give it a go. It's a great way to improve sales in your business, connect with your people, and generate a lot of goodwill. If you want to find out more about me personally, jasonwest.com. Come and check me out. Join my mailing list if you want to, if you find it useful, content like this. And thanks ever so much. Have a great day.